I still don't know how I'm supposed to feel about all of this. I mean, do I call it karma? Or just a really, really expensive lesson? You know, for years, I had this vision of my life. A solid career, a nice little house, maybe a dog, a white picket fence, the whole cliche. I'm a pretty simple guy, really. All I ever wanted was a partner who was on the same page. Someone to build a life with, brick by brick. Not someone to rescue, not someone to fix, and definitely not some kind of project. So when I met Sarah, it felt like I'd won the lottery. We were both in our late 20s. We met through a mutual friend at a coffee shop downtown. And I know, that sounds like something out of a Hallmark movie, but it was just so easy with her. She was a landscape architect, super creative, a little bit quirky, and she had this infectious laugh that made my chest feel warm. She was ambitious, talked about her goals, her 5-year plan, everything I want in a partner. We spent hours talking about our dreams for the future, the house we'd one day own, the trips we'd take, what we'd name our kids, the kind of stuff you talk about when you're building a foundation with someone. Looking back, I guess that's where the first crack appeared. The foundation wasn't what I thought it was, because everything was perfect. Too perfect. We fell in love fast. I'm talking like for months in, we were already talking about moving in together. Another few months after that, and we were engaged. And honestly, it felt right. She was everything I'd ever wanted, and I had truly believed I was everything she wanted, too. I mean, we had the same values, the same dreams, or so I thought. We were both really big on being financially responsible. We would have these deep talks about how important it was to be on a good footing before starting a family. And Sarah was, on paper, she was great with money. She had a steady job, she wasn't a big spender, and she always talked about saving up for a down payment. She always paid her share when we went out, never asked for anything. That was a big deal for me. A huge deal. We were looking at houses one day when she got a call. I remember her face just lit up. She got off the phone and turned to me, her eyes just sparkling. "It's happening," she said. "My great-aunt's inheritance, it finally came through." I didn't even know she had a great-aunt who was supposed to leave her money. But I was so caught up in the moment, I just brushed it off. I was just so happy for her. For us. It was about $50,000. She said her aunt had left it to her and told her specifically to use it for something big. Something that would set her up for a stable future. She wanted to use it for a down payment on a house, on a home for us. And that felt like the moment everything was coming together. All the late nights, working overtime, all the saving, all the waiting, it was finally happening. I started getting our finances in order, pulling together my savings, getting pre-approved for a loan. We found this amazing little place just outside of town. A 3-bedroom, 2-bath ranch with a big yard and a huge, old oak tree in the front. It was perfect. We put in an offer, and it was accepted. We used Sarah's $50,000 as a down payment, and I took out a loan for the rest. Everything went so smoothly. Too smoothly, maybe. It's funny how in hindsight, all the puzzle pieces that didn't fit suddenly click into place. We got married a month later, and it was the happiest day of my life. I was marrying the woman of my dreams. We were about to move into our perfect home, and I was finally going to get that white picket fence I'd been dreaming of. We were a few days away from closing on the house, and I was just buzzing with excitement. I went over to the house to take some measurements. I wanted to surprise Sarah and have her bedroom furniture already set up for her. I'm standing there, measuring the wall for the bed frame, when I hear a car pull up in the driveway. A beat-up old sedan. I figured it was the previous owners. Maybe they forgot something. I walked outside, and a woman I'd never seen before was standing there, looking at the house. She looked nervous. "Can I help you?" I asked. She looked at me, and her eyes were not kind. They were full of a kind of resentment I couldn't place. She hesitated for a second, then said, "You must be Sarah's husband." And my heart just dropped. A rock in my gut. I didn't know who she was, but I knew. I just knew that this was the moment everything changed. Everything I'd worked for, everything I'd built, it was about to come crashing down. I just had this sick feeling in my stomach. I knew she wasn't here for friendly chat. "Yeah, I am," I said. "And you are." She took a deep breath, like she was steeling herself for something. And then she said the words that changed everything. "I'm her sister, and we need to talk about that house. My heart was pounding so hard I could feel it in my ears. I couldn't speak. My mind was racing, trying to put the pieces together. Was this a prank? Did I say something wrong? Did I somehow accidentally offend her family without even knowing? I looked at the house behind me, at the brand new lawn and the freshly painted door, and it just felt like a monument to a lie I hadn't even realized I was living. I just stood there, speechless. She just sighed, like she was tired of explaining this to people. She introduced herself as Maya and told me to just hear her out. She said, "Look, I know this is probably a shock, but you need to know what you're getting into." And that's what she told me. She told me the whole sordid story. My wife's supposed inheritance wasn't an inheritance at all. It was a loan. A loan my wife, Sarah, had taken out in our great aunt's name to pay off all of her debts. I just felt the blood drain from my face. My knees felt weak, like I was about to collapse. I wanted to tell her she was lying, that she was just some jealous relative trying to cause trouble. But the look in her eyes, it was too real, too full of hurt. She told me that their great aunt had been struggling with dementia for a while, and my wife had taken advantage of it. She convinced her great aunt to co-sign on a massive line of credit, telling her it was for some business venture. The poor old lady didn't know what she was signing. And all of that money, all $50,000, had gone to pay off my wife's student loans and a mountain of credit card debt. She'd been living a lifestyle she couldn't afford for years, and now it had all come to a head. The great aunt passed away a few months later, and her family, including Maya, found out what Sarah had done. They were furious, heartbroken. It wasn't an inheritance at all. It was a con. And the worst part? That loan? It had to be paid back. And my wife had just transferred all of that debt and all of that responsibility onto us. Onto me. Maya just looked at me with this mix of pity and frustration. "She's always done this," she said. "She gets herself into a hole and then finds someone else to dig her out. She did it to my parents, to our uncle, and now she's doing it to you. She just expects people to fix her problems for her. She probably thinks this is the most romantic thing in the world, that you're going to be her knight in shining armor and pay it all off for her." My brain just shut down. All I could hear was a buzzing sound, like an old television set. All I could see was the house. Our house. The house I was paying for with my loan. The house that was bought with a down payment from my wife's lies. Maya kept talking, but I barely heard her. She told me that their family was done with Sarah. They had disowned her. They were so ashamed of what she had done, of how she had taken advantage of a sick, elderly relative. And the only reason Maya came to me was because she felt a responsibility to warn me. She didn't want to see me get screwed over like everyone else. I just stood there. The sun was going down, and the light was casting long shadows across the yard, making everything look dark and menacing. The air was getting cold, but I couldn't feel it. I couldn't feel anything except a crushing weight on my chest. I thanked Maya for coming by. She gave me her number and told me to call her if I needed anything. She looked at me one last time with those sad, knowing eyes, and then she was gone. I stood there for a long time, just staring at the house. This wasn't a home. This was a prison built on a lie, a con, and a massive debt that I had no idea I was responsible for. I felt so stupid. How could I have been so blind? All those perfect moments, all those dreams we shared, were they all just part of the con? Was she ever really in love with me? Or was I just her ticket out of financial mess? I felt my phone buzz in my pocket. It was a text from Sarah. "Can't wait to move in, my love. We're finally building our future. I love you more than words can say." I didn't text her back. I just turned my phone off. I didn't go home. I couldn't face her. The woman I had just married, the woman I had promised to love and cherish forever, was a stranger. And she had just signed me up for a lifetime of debt I knew nothing about. I got in my truck and just drove. I drove and I drove until the city lights were just a tiny speck in my rearview mirror. I just needed to be alone, to think, to process the fact that my entire world had just been turned on its head. I had no idea what I was going to do. Should I confront her? Should I just walk away? I had to find a way out of this. I couldn't be married to a woman who would do this to me, but I had to figure out how to do it without losing everything. The house, the loan, everything. All of my dreams felt like they were turning to dust, and all of it All of it was because I fell in love. It was late, and Sarah was asleep on the couch, surrounded by boxes and bubble wrap from all her new stuff. The lights were on, the TV was playing some home decorating show, but she was out cold. For a second, I just stood there in the doorway, watching her. My beautiful wife. The woman I had just promised to spend my life with. She looked so peaceful, so innocent. And for the first time since this whole thing started, I just felt a wave of pure, unadulterated rage. I want to shake her awake. I want to scream at her. I wanted to ask her, how could you? How could you do this to me? To us? I walked over to the TV and just unplugged it. The sudden silence filled the room. The jolt woke her up, and she sat up, startled. "Hey, babe, you're home," she said, her voice groggy. "What's wrong? You look like you've seen a ghost." I just stared at her. I didn't know how to start. There was no easy way to say this. So I just said it. "I met your sister today, Maya." Her face went pale. All the grogginess left her eyes in an instant, replaced with a look of pure panic. The kind of look you get when you've been caught red-handed. She started stammering, trying to come up with a story. "Oh, Maya? What did she want? Did she give you that thing I asked her to?" "No," I said, my voice dangerously calm. "She didn't give me anything. She told me something, though. She told me about the inheritance." She squeezed her eyes shut. She already knew. She knew the whole story was out. "It wasn't an inheritance, was it, Sarah?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. "It was a loan. A loan you took out in your gray tant's name to pay off your debt. The debt you hid from me for a year. The debt you pretended you didn't have." She started crying. The fake kind of crying. The kind that's all show and no substance. The tears were there, but the emotion wasn't. It was the crying of a child who'd just been caught with their hand in the cookie jar. She tried to grab my hand, but I pulled away. "I can explain," she sobbed. "I was going to tell you. I swear. I didn't know how." "No, you weren't," I said. "You were going to let me just find out one day when the bank came calling. You were going to let me take on your debt. You were going to let me pay for your mistake. You were going to let me clean up your mess. It's our mess now," she screamed. And that was it. That was the moment. The betrayal. The audacity. She was framing it as a shared problem. As if I was equally to blame for her deception. As if this was just a normal part of marriage, to lie and then expect your partner to come to your rescue. I just started laughing. A cold, hollow sound. It was the most surreal moment of my life. My wife, the woman who I thought was my best friend, was yelling at me for uncovering a massive lie she had been keeping for months, a lie that would have financially crippled us for years. She was the one who had taken advantage of a dying relative. She was the one who had lied to me about our entire future. And she was the one who was now angry. "Our mess," I said, the laughter dying in my throat. "No, Sarah, this is your mess. You made it. You lie in it. And you clean it up." She looked at me, and her expression changed from fake sadness to genuine fury. "What are you going to do?" she said, her voice laced with venom. "Are you going to leave me? The day before we move into our new house? The day after we just got married?" "Oh no," I said. "I'm not leaving you. I'm giving you a choice." "A choice?" she asked, her voice shaking. "Yes, a choice. You can either tell me the truth about everything. Every lie, every debt, every single little thing you've hidden from me. Or you can walk out that door right now, and I'll get the house, and you can get a divorce." She just stared at me. Her mouth was open, but no words came out. The rage in her eyes was replaced with something else. It was fear. Pure, unadulterated fear. She was cornered. She had been playing a game, a very serious one, and she had just lost. I just stood there, my arms crossed over my chest. The silence was deafening. The only sound was my own ragged breathing and her shallow, panicked gasps. The house, my dreams, they felt so far away. And all I could think about was how I'd let this happen. How I'd been so blind, so stupid, and how I was now going to pay the price. But not for her debt, in our living room, surrounded by boxes filled with our future. A future that had just shattered into a million little pieces. The silence was deafening, just punctuated by her panicked breathing. I could see her mind racing, trying to find a way out of this. But there was no way out. Not anymore. Finally, she broke the silence. "Fine," she said, her voice a low growl. "You want the truth? The truth is, I'm a mess. I've always been a mess. I'm not some perfect girl who has it all together. I had no idea what I was doing when I got out of college. I had this mountain of student loans and credit card debt from trying to keep up with people on Instagram. I was drowning, and I was so ashamed. When I met you, you were so perfect, so organized, so good with money, and I couldn't tell you. I couldn't tell you I was a failure. I just looked at her. It wasn't the full truth. Not even close. It was a half-truth, a little sob story she was trying to use to make me feel sorry for her. And the inheritance? I asked, my voice flat. She looked down at the floor, refusing to meet my eyes. I panicked. I saw an opportunity to finally get out of debt, and I took it. I was going to tell you, eventually, once we were married, once you were invested, once you couldn't leave me. And that was it. That was the confession. She had used me. She had seen me as a tool, as a solution to her problems. Not as a partner, not as a personal love, just as a way out. So what now? She asked, her voice small. Are you going to just leave? After everything we built? You didn't build anything, I said, my voice shaking with a mix of anger and sadness. You just saw an opportunity to con someone, and I was the one who fell for it. She started crying again, this time for real. The tears were streaming down her face, and her shoulders were shaking. Please, she whispered, please don't go. I can fix this. I'll get a second job. We can figure it out. But I knew she wouldn't. She didn't want to fix anything. She just wanted me to do it for her. I knew that she would just keep digging until we were both buried under her lies. I had to get out. For me. For my own sanity. I walked over to the closet and pulled out a suitcase. I started packing my clothes, my toiletries, anything that was mine. She watched me, her tears slowing down as the reality of the situation sunk in. I was serious. I was leaving. What about the house? She asked, her voice cracking. What about the down payment? The house is in my name, and I took out the loan, I said. And the down payment, that's yours to pay back. You figure it out. You took the loan out. You're on your own now. You wanted to be free? Congratulations. You are. I finished packing and zipped up my bag. I didn't say goodbye. I didn't say I loved her. I didn't say anything at all. I just turned around and walked out the door, leaving her standing there, alone in a sea of boxes and lies. I spent the night at a friend's place. The next day, I went to a lawyer. I explained everything, and he just shook his head, a look of pure pity on his face. He said since the down payment was a gift from her to me, a lie she perpetuated on the loan documents, thank God, and the loan was in my name, she had no claim to the house. And as for the debt, that was all on her. I wasn't liable for a single penny. It was a clean break, a quick divorce, and a painful but necessary end. It's been a year now. I've moved into the house. It's quiet, sometimes too quiet. I've started dating someone new, and I've been very, very careful. I'm more open now, more vulnerable, but I'm also more guarded. The experience taught me a lesson I won't ever forget. You can't build a future with someone on a foundation of lies. It's just a house of cards, waiting to fall. And when it does, it hurts like hell. I haven't talked to Sarah since I walked out that door. She's tried to contact me, a few desperate texts, a few missed calls. But I don't answer. I don't respond. The worst kind of goodbye isn't a slammed door or an angry scream. It's silence. The silence of someone who just gave up. And that's what I did. I gave up on a lie, so I could finally live a truth. A life I had worked for and that I finally deserved. The house is no longer a prison. It's my home, and it's a constant reminder of the day I stopped setting myself on fire just to keep someone else warm.